Hello, my name is Ted Hulsy. I'm Vice President of Marketing at eFolder and your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Partner Chat Series. This webinar series brings together leading eFolder partners for business-oriented discussions. Today's topic is 3 reasons to join an IT peer group. Today we are joined by Phil Keneally, President and owner of ACES, Kim Nielsen, CEO and Chief Technology Officer at Computer Technologies, and David Lair, owner at Lair Services. Before we go through today's agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be made available on eFolder's YouTube channel. We will also make copies of the slides available to those who registered for the event. With over 60 people registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it in on your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit your questions as we go along and we will try to address them on the fly. Today's presentation follows a logical flow. After introducing our partner guests, we will discuss each of their companies and learn about their involvement in 3 different peer groups: Technology Assurance Group, Robbins Producers Club, and HTG. We will then dive into a panel discussion during which every partner will have a chance to share and to highlight the benefits they've gained from being a part of a member of an IT peer group. We will then open the floor to your questions. So let's go next to, so first of all, let's kind of give a little bit of context here. You know, what has eFolder heard throughout the years? I mean, why are peer groups important to us? Well, they're important to us because we do the bulk of our best new partner recruitment through peer groups. And, you know, kind of why do we do that? Well, we do that because we feel like some of the best managed service providers and IT service providers on the market today are engaged in some sort of peer group. And why is that? Well, because it's a recognition by those partners that they really need to be working on their business, and they need to be engaged in a larger community to always be upping their game. So generally speaking, you know, IT peer groups at a base level, and we'll get into, you know, the granular detail from each panelist here in a moment, but being on a member of a peer group gives you access to technical knowledge, business knowledge from other organizations that are working just as hard as you are to make your business better. Of course, there's always the benefits of career, the benefits, the social and career benefits of networking with other people. And then keeping up with industry trends is always a struggle, I think, and having a group of like-minded individuals helps a great deal. And then I think something every business professional wrestles with, of course, is life-work balance. You know, how do you make this all hang together when you're extremely busy running a company and, you know, trying to be highly successful and grow a thriving organization? How do you do it all? So that's some just kind of my introductory, you know, comments on why eFolder as a company is so focused on peer groups and what we hear from our partners all the time. Now let me introduce our partner guests. So starting on the left there is Phil Keneally. Phil is president of ACES. He knows firsthand the challenges of utilizing technology to meet business needs. While admitting he doesn't know the ins and outs of how it all works, he knows what he likes, knows that he likes the freedom technology gives him. When Phil was young, he bought the networking division of a software reseller and started Computer Pros, which later became ACES. Phil has a BA in financial management from the University of Northern Iowa. Phil loves riding motorcycles, playing golf, and spending time reading. Next up in the middle is Kim Nielsen. Kim Nielsen is the President and Chief Business Technology Strategist at Computer Technologies. A graduate of Walsh College, Kim founded Computer Technologies in 1991 in order to help local governments and small businesses simplify their IT. Computer Technologies has grown into one of the premier consulting companies in Southeast Michigan. Kim is a certified HIPAA security professional, and in 2014, Kim was accepted as a member of the Department of Homeland Security's Electronic Crime Task Force. And then last but not least, on the right is David Lair. David Lair is president of Lair Services. David started his IT career at AOL and moved to Verizon and then Microsoft as a field trainer and marketing rep. He started Lair Services in 2005, servicing residential clients and overflow clients from CompUSA Field Tech Services. Lair Services quickly moved to the SE arena, focusing on the legal and CPA verticals. LSI is now based in downtown Tampa with $3 million plus in revenue, 11 employees, and is using managed services delivery as its primary business model. David enjoys early 1970s classic convertibles, land yachts, and restoring them. Phil, Kim, and David, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is go one by one and have you each introduce your company and then talk about the peer group that you're a member of and just answer a couple quick questions, and then we'll go into full panel mode. So Phil, why don't you start us out and tell us a little bit about ACES?
Okay. ACES started out in managed services early on. We were an HTG peer group member before HTG was cool, and Arlen Sorensen walked into a meeting one day and said, you're not going to be successful doing break, fix, and projects going into the future. You've got to start setting up managed services clients. So we started selling managed services before anybody knew what it was, and have been fairly successful at it. We do a significant amount of our business is local government, education, K-12, and then small manufacturing services firms in Northeast Iowa. 14 employees, about $2 million in annual revenue.
And then tell us a little bit about the Technology Assurance Group. How did you get involved? How did you hear about it? Why did you initially join?
Sure. We were 3Com NBX resellers selling voice over IP long, long ago. And then 3Com kind of lost its way in life. And HP acquired 3Com, and then they kind of scuttled their voice over IP offering, the NBX. So at that time, we decided we weren't really that good at voice anyway, so we were just going to bail and stay working on our IT services. Then I visited one of my peers in the HTG peer group that told me last summer he had done, or this 2 summers ago, had done every major project that summer was a voice over IP project. So I got to thinking, hey, maybe I need to be in that field. So we started working with Zoltus, and Zoltus, Justin Bush at Zoltus introduced us to TAG. TAG is a group of, it's a peer group for telecommunications vendors and or resellers, and they are working to get into IT. So they helped me learn voice over IP, and I work with them to learn IT. So it's been very good.
And you've been involved with TAG for 2 years?
2 years, yep.
Okay. And what's the kind of the meeting cadence and the form of the groups? I mean, do you get together face to face or virtually? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, they have an annual all-in conference for everybody. Then there's at least 2, I think they try to set them up quarterly, but I think they end up being about twice a year where they have what they call their star group meetings, which is the equivalent of the HTG peer group meetings face-to-face. In fact, that's where I'm at today in San Diego at a star group meeting. They allowed me to duck out so that I could be on this panel for you guys.
Okay.
And then we do regular calls. You know, I would say a couple, 2 or 3 calls a year just to talk about what we're going to be doing at the next face-to-face meeting.
Okay. And what kind of content do you guys address in your meetings, and what's that like?
Well, the thing that TAG brings to my company that's significant is it's really tactical ways to sell voice over IP products. And so the content revolves around other telecommunications vendor resellers that are, product specific, what it is they're actually selling, how they're selling it, how they're actually building their contracts, and how they're building recurring revenue into those contracts. And then there's also, business planning content to discuss legacy issues and transitional issues and things like that.
Okay. Well, great. Let's. That's a good introduction to TAG. We're going to have plenty of time for questions here in a moment. Why don't we move on to Kim? Tell us a little bit about CTI and your business.
Okay, well, I started computer technologies back in 1991. Of course, at that time, we were break fix because that's what everybody did. We kind of evolved. We were working on referral-based as far as getting new clients. We have since moved into managed services, as well as we do deal with fully hosted cloud solutions or the point solutions like the hosted exchange offsite backup. We still do break fix. We were able to make good money on it. I did look at my numbers. Our break fix is about 40% of our business still. We are trying to, move more and more away from that, but I tried to stop that at one point, and we just do good on break fix, so we continue to do that at this point. As far as our market, we are more a geographic market, to our local area, and then also we work with local city governments in the surrounding counties. So we do have a wide variety of clients. Our base is pretty much the 15 to about 50 to 60 user base. We joined, well, I kind of laugh at this story. I actually bought Robin's toolkit twice for the Producers Club because I bought it the first time way back in 2003. I ran into Robin at a ASCII event, actually, and things were kind of slow at that time, so I was kind of in a little panic mode and wanted to, figured I needed to do some marketing, and then had a conversation with Robin about fixed fee jobs. We had never really done fixed fee, and she convinced me to move in that direction, which became much more profitable in kind of that break fix arena. So we never even did a campaign. Then the book sat on the shelf for, I think it was 6 years, and in 2009 then I bought it a second time and joined the Producers Club. And one of the reasons I did that, we at that point in time had a client that was the majority of our business, just over 50% of our business, and that really bothered me. They were a good client, there were no issues with it, but I didn't like the fact that there was one client that held so much of my revenue in their hands. So I wanted to get involved in some sort of marketing that would start bringing in, additional leads, so we weren't in that situation. And, in the long run, it paid off very well. I will say we, eventually lost that client. It wasn't for anything that we did. It was a government client, but it came down to revenue sharing services that the state was pushing them to merge with other cities. Being a member of the Producers Club gave me that peace of mind. We all sell peace of mind with our managed services. Well, I consider marketing peace of mind for your business, because if you don't know how to market and bring in clients, you're only as good as your last referral. And if you have a really big client that's consuming the majority of your resources, they only have so many referrals. So you're not in a situation where you're out there at, more businesses generating more referrals. So I will say it gave me a peace of mind when we did lose that big client. It wasn't even a worry because I knew I had the tools available to market and bring in more clients. And because it's specific to the IT industry, it's kind of, it's a done-for-you type thing. There wasn't a lot we had to put into it. I don't want to say thought-wise because we put a lot of thought into it, but it was pretty much done. IT people aren't marketers. I think we all know that. So that's where Producers Club has been very, very, very beneficial.
And I think, Kim, a lot of people, I think maybe there's probably a lot of folks listening to this maybe have a Robbins kit sitting up on the shelf, and they maybe didn't, take it to the next level. Can you kind of clarify for our audience kind of, the difference between kind of buying a toolkit and being a member of Robbins community, and really what do you get that's different, or how does the motion change?
Yeah, and it was probably when we joined the Producers Club that, that really spiraled things, because that is powerful. First of all, just having other peers there, colleagues that understand IT. I'm not in a marketing group. Somebody's selling, I don't know, lawn service or whatever. So that helped. And then also being in the Producers Club and being involved with my peers, even with the marketing campaigns, there's supplies you need, certain ways of doing things, and even just reaching out, to the group and saying, I'm looking at doing this campaign. Where did you buy your monkeys from, or where did you buy this insert from, or those types of things was even such a time savings. Didn't have to vet that out. So belonging to the organization or the Producers Club did take us to the next level, because we had some additional resources to reach out to implement these things.
And can you talk a little bit about how accountability works? I mean, having that peer group, I mean, what is there some extra pressure to perform or to share your results or keep up on projects?
Well, of course there is. I mean, now our accountability group, we meet on the phone weekly, so we do have weekly conversations, but we do hold each other accountable. You said you were going to do it, and I'm one of those. There's a lot of things that goes on in my life and my business and my industry, just like everybody else, and marketing is easy to push aside when technical issues are happening, but when you've got a group that you have to tell them that you did not accomplish anything that you had indicated you were going to move your business forward. I mean, I'm an overachiever, so I don't want to go to my group very often and tell them that I didn't get things done. So I found myself many times in the beginning, because I am moving away more from working in the business to working on the business. But in the beginning, I would be up, hours into the night before our call, just so I could get the stuff done that I said I was going to do the week before, so I didn't have to tell my group I didn't accomplish it. So for me, it was an extra push that I found helpful and still do.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, with plenty of time for questions for the whole panel. I just want to remind everybody on the line, you can use the GoToMeeting application to start submitting questions as we go along, and I will be monitoring the Q&A and asking our panelists those questions. Let's go to David Lair. David, I think I heard you come on. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, welcome. Tell us a little bit about Lair Services, if you would.
Lair Services is primarily a managed service provider in the Central Florida area. We started out in the high-end residential area, and that led us to businesses. We always over-delivered at the homes, and we were invited into businesses, and I quickly saw that was more lucrative. And back in 2007, 2 years into it, one of my customers said, "Listen, can you just solve a headache for me? I don't like having different, I like what you're doing, but I don't like having different dollar amounts each month. Can you just give me a flat rate and come in here and make it where I never have to think about IT again?" And I said, "Well, gosh, that's going to cost you a lot." He says, "I don't care how much it costs. I never want to think about IT again." Beautiful client. And so I did it, and he accepted the price. And I went, wow, I can make a lot of money at this, and I have not turned around since then.
Right on. And so you guys are at 10 employees, over north of $3 million a year in revenue?
Yes, sir. 11 employees. We just actually hired our first outsourced IT guy. He covers things overnight, our overnight help desk. He's actually in India. Everybody else is based in downtown Tampa.
Okay. Well, great. And tell us a little bit about your journey with finding HTG and joining up with that community.
I realized quickly that the proper tools can make a heck of a lot of difference. Started out with a RMM tool that's no longer in business, then went to Autotask as a ticketing tool, and really like that, hired a business consultant to do some stuff, and he couldn't get Autotask to do it, so we switched to ConnectWise a few years ago, and we really live by the culture of if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. We also use LabTech as our current RMM, and we literally have an employee dedicated to LabTech, learning it and being our champion. And we believe we're only using it at half efficiency, but it's doing the work of 2 employees. So as we continue to mature in its use, we think by the end of the year we'll have it doing the work of 3 or 4 employees, even to the point that it can do routine tasks, get an alert about something, say defrag. That's a poor example, but a defrag. Go in there, do the defrag, generate a ticket with the actual time that a tech would have spent, and actually have that as a billing or as a charge against a standard contract. So we were having trouble getting resources for this, so our business consultant told us about Paul Dipple and service leadership. We started looking at that, and we actually went to a conference to meet Paul Dipple and hear him speak. And we were able to get him aside for 2 hours. He went through our books and everything, and he said, based on our maturity level and our operating thing, we should go into a group called HTG, not his service leadership group, because service leadership concentrates 100% on the bottom line. And he says it's for much larger corporate infrastructures. He said a small structure like we had, HTG was what we wanted because it concentrated on a balanced lifestyle and business style. It wasn't just about business goals or financial goals. It was about making sure you had a family life outside of work. It was making sure your employees are happy to be working for you, along with happy clients, and that you were building some type of legacy that you as an individual was passionate about. I at first thought that was a little bit of hokum and thought, I just want to focus on the business. But I went to the first meeting, and it was genuine, and I realized that I was inefficient in the way I'd say, well, I can work till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night because I don't have anything else to do at home. So I was actually very inefficient in the day. Now that I have, appointments with personal trainer or, a friend's house to go over and play cards with or whatever, I know I got to get out of the office by 6 to get on to other things. So it forces miniature deadlines or miniature accountability to get stuff done in a timely manner. So while it's brought life balance, it's brought more efficiency, and I've actually got a social life for the first time in running my own business.
That's great. That's great. Okay, let's do this. Let's kind of like open it up a little bit again to all the folks on the line here. Let's go ahead and keep the questions coming, but I've just got some teed up here, and I'll just throw these out there for each of you or any of you to grab. But let's start with this top one here. So, what's been the biggest change to your business since you joined a peer group? I mean, David, you just shared some, but maybe Kim or Phil, you guys want to tackle that one?
Sure, I can speak to that, Ted. Before I joined a peer group and we really started holding each other accountable and looking at the SLI numbers in HTG, which are the profitability numbers and where we compared to best-in-class companies, I really had no idea what a successful IT company should look like. I'd been running one for about 5 or 6 years up to that point, but I didn't know how to measure success. I was getting along just fine with a decent income, and I had a partner in the business, and he was doing well as well. But then we started comparing those numbers and realized, boy, there's a whole lot more opportunity for us to drive more profitability and, better lifestyles. So that was a huge thing to just start for the peer group to kind of introduce me to what opportunities could be in the business. And the other thing is now, as I'm nearing sunset in my career, I'm focused on how to structure my business so that it continues and that don't have to be so actively involved. And that's all because I've been was introduced to that, through the peer group and started getting serious about it. And so I'm not waiting until the year I want to quit to structure my business as a saleable entity.
That's right. So you're able to you're trying to drive more value into the company so that it will become more valuable to a potential acquirer.
That's right.
And Phil, your experience is a little unique. We kind of talked about this on the pre-call a little bit, but you've been a member of both HTG and TAG. Could you kind of compare and contrast the two organizations?
Yeah, I would say HTG is more strategic and TAG is more tactical. HTG also, there's a huge emphasis on work-life balance, which I think is important for entrepreneurs. I think we can get so wrapped up in our work life that we lose our families and our social life. David, you alluded to that a little bit. But on the flip side, I'm more of the idea guy, the visionary, and things like that. And when it comes to execution, I need help, and that's where TAG comes in. They give us practical, tactical things to do to drive additional sales and voice over IP or whatever it is, whatever technology we're going to do. So instead of reinventing the wheel myself, I've got those guys to help draw me a roadmap and say, do this, do these steps, you're going to be successful.
Okay. Kim, any thoughts to share on what's changed? Or David, you want to follow on that a little bit?
Phil, I guess your TAG group focuses on VoIP. I was going to say that one of the great things about HTG is the accountability, making me move from a strategic point, same words you used, to a tactical point. Zig Ziglar once said that education without implementation is just entertainment. I'd go to these conferences and I'd get a whole lot of entertainment, walk back into the office with all kinds of great ideas and never implement anything. Now I'm in a group that we've got a group of 12 guys, we are companies, and we break into 3 smaller groups, which are micro groups. One's focused on marketing, one's on sales, and one's on business practices. And they develop stuff for the group, and we're accountable to each other. I'm probably like the rest of you. I'll lie to myself, but I won't lie to you. I'll lie to myself about my own deadlines and what I'm going to do in a day. But when Lisa or Craig are on the line with me and they say, okay, David, are you going to get that copy finished by Friday for the group? And I said, yes. Well, guess what? I'm going to get that copy finished for the group. And also the increase in maturity level of the business in all of these companies, ConnectWise, AutoTask, TigerPaw, Kaseya, all of them give you a blank sheet and say you can use our product any way you want. That's how flexible, that's how great our product is. And you sit there and you say, well, that's not it. I know how to run a business with 4 employees, but I now want to grow it to a 5 or 6 company business, or a 12-employee business, or a $5 million. I don't know how to do the next step. And they say, well, you can do whatever you want. Well, you're sitting in the group and somebody else has run into the hiring problem you've had, or someone else has run into the alerts, having 30,000 alerts in a day come through because your thing's not tweaked properly. So you have people who have faced the same problems you have, and the problems you've solved, you're sharing them with them. So a whole lot of giver gets attitude and good old-fashioned karma.
Okay, great. That's great. Kim, any thoughts on big changes to your business?
Yeah, I'll say one big change it has to do with, knowing how to market. And, I think it's like David and Phil have both kind of talked about, when you're with a group trying to figure out how to get something done, it seems a lot easier when they're like-minded. Some have run into the issues before. But what I have seen after joining like the Producers Club, and it has to do with marketing, is we have become in the last year and a half much more picky on the types of clients we will take. We want them to fit into our culture. We don't want those clients that every time the phone rings we cringe, which I'm not a member of an HTG and not real familiar with them, but the whole work-life balance I think can even start there, because if you got a client calling you and you cringe every time you see the phone rings from them, that affects your personal life, affects your home life. Don't tell me it doesn't. So, I see that change in our business. It's very powerful knowing I know how to market. I'm not just a tech. I know how to bring in additional clients, and I'm not just going to take anything that gets dropped on my door and let them abuse us or our employees. And there are clients out there that like to do that. And we used to work with them, and we don't anymore. And I find that very powerful, and I find that, even for the people that, I work with, we all seem much happier being able to do that.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the evolution. Several of you have been involved for years with these different groups. I mean, is there something that's kind of evolved in terms of your engagement or how you're, how you're participating?
Most definitely.
Well, for me, Ted, having been in the face-to-face groups with HTG and then getting involved with TAG, you start to have more meetings, and you can really effectively attend and still pay attention to your business. So I backed off the HTG group online and I backed off face-to-face. I've gone to online for now, so that I can be till we get this voice over IP business up off the ground. So there has been a little transition there for us.
Mm-hmm. David or Kim, you guys want to any other observations on evolution?
Well, I wanted to pat Kim on the back, and I couldn't help from smiling to myself. One of the nice warm fuzzies you get when you grow your business to a certain point is that point where you do take a call from someone and you very nicely refer them off to a competitor because you realize they are going to be a pain in the fanny client and you just don't want them. And you're not having to go out and service every single client. You are able to set your price point and not discount it and everything. HTG has, in the past 2 years, really helped me to develop a no apologies type attitude, because we're over-delivering in what we do, so we can get $125 a desktop for MSP management of it. And when we have someone saying, that's that's not worth it or anything, we're okay with saying, no problem. Here, we can give you 3 other companies to call that we know do it at a lower amount. And we're not worried about that, because we're getting the clients who understand we have to go in there and we have to change routers and switches to get continuity so that our guys can service them properly, and that they do let us in for lunch and learns when we see a trend in something, that we're able to go in there and teach their people so that we can reduce tickets and stuff. And then we have people that we are actually partnering with instead of just servicing.
Sure.
It's great observations. I want to take a couple questions from the floor. Anthony has a question for Kim, and it's, how beneficial has your relationship with the Producers Club been from a marketing standpoint, and how do they help you grow your business? So you can be more specific on that in terms of kind of like just tangible results and what you've been able to measure there.
I mean, it's been quite beneficial, and as I say, just to me, part of it's that peace of mind, you know, that we're always trying to sell, that, you know, when we support systems, but the peace of mind that I know I can go out and generate revenue and bring in customers. I have those tools available.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I guess what, I mean, in Robin's, like in the Producers Club world, I mean, do you guys get together and form like goals? Like, I mean, does everybody have to kind of submit a goal in terms of, hey, I want to grow my I want to grow my managed services revenue from X to Y, or, I mean, is that part of the process?
That is part of the process, setting those goals. So we do that, and that does, it does help. I think we all have goals, but unless you really put them in writing and post them somewhere where somebody else is seeing them as well as yourself, it's easy to say I have the goals, and then the time goes by and it's like, wow, I missed that goal. But when it's, I mean, you're not required to do anything, but highly suggested. You know, you make your goals at the beginning of the year, and then you look at it a little differently as, this is where I want to be at the end of the year, so what do I have to do this quarter, this month, this week? And you can really start breaking it down. And I think having people remind you to do that really helps you achieve those goals. Because having a big goal, saying in 12 months from now or the end of the year I want to do X, can sometimes be a little overwhelming because it's a big number. But if you look at it, what do I got to do this week to get there, and you're breaking it down, it makes it a lot more manageable and less overwhelming, I guess would be the word to use. As I say, most of us were text. I say were because it's a little scary. I have a marketing mind now, and
mission accomplished.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I scare myself sometimes. I think like a marketer. So as I say, those types of things, you know, and then having the group, and even the group, I'm in an accountability group, and we're all very willing. If somebody's struggling, what can I do to help you make your goals? You know, so I have that available too. You know, I get asked that too. What can we do to help you make your goals?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk a little bit about benchmarking. I think each one of our panelists has kind of mentioned a little bit, but let's share a little more detail. I mean, Ray from the audience says, is benchmarking an important part of being on a peer group, i.e. knowing where you are versus the other folks in the group? Could you guys talk a little bit about how benchmarking and how does that play into the peer group process, and how does it help?
This is David. I think the benchmarking, we apparently TAG uses the same thing we do, which is Paul Dippel's LSI Service Leadership Index. And the first thing it does is it helps you get your business accounting practices in order. It will very quickly show you where you may not be managing the inventory that you guys run out and grab something real quick at Office Depot or something, a hard drive or a keyboard, and install it in the client. It shows that those things aren't getting tracked and charged, one. So normally it pays for itself very quickly in a couple of small corrections. But more importantly, it breaks your business out into multiple areas, the biggies being managed service, projects, and break service delivery. For Phil, it would also have VoIP. And you quickly see where your time is going, but more importantly, where your profitability is coming from. So if 50% of your time is spent on something and only 10% of your profit is coming from it, that may be a problem, But if you've got another area where 20% of your time is going into it, but 50% of your profit is there, gee, maybe you may want to bump that up a little bit. And the SLI benchmarks make it very, very clear where that is. It also helps you in the HR realm in which employees and which employees are most productive and most billable against their cost. You may have a couple of very inexpensive $25K a year employees versus a $160,000 employee, but you may find out that that $60,000 is doing the work of three $25,000 ones. So I believe the benchmarking through Paul Dippel's SLI is excellent.
Okay. Other thoughts on benchmarking?
I was just going to say that I don't know if I could answer it any better than that, David. That was, I would say it was right on.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just to make a comment, you know, I mean, just so that everyone in the audience is on the same page how this works. I mean, David certainly explained this well, but you know, you take all of your account in HTG as an example. You take all of your accounting data and you first of all standardize your chart of accounts so that you can do apples to apples comparison. And so that, as David mentioned, helps you get your ducks in a row in terms of your P&L and your balance sheet and cash flow statement. So you're doing it the right way. You're tracking things in the right buckets, and you pour all that in, and then every quarter when you get together with your group, you actually share that data. You actually go through it and you look at the P&L partner group by partner group, which is pretty amazing because you're sharing at a deeper level. There's high degrees of trust and confidentiality, of course, but you're sharing at a quite a deeper level. But just so everyone understands exactly how SLI works in a group, it just is very transparent and helps you really focus in, as David mentioned, on the things where you can either optimize or double down on certain things in how you're running the business.
And Kim may want to speak to the benchmarking that Robin Robbins can help you with. I use Robin Robbins also, and so through her and managing a marketing campaign, whether you're managing it through Constant Contact or whatever the monkey thing is, or through ConnectWise or TigerPaw, if you're using Robin Robbins' methodology, it shows you very quickly the responses you get, and you're able to weigh that against the cost in how productive a certain campaign was, and therefore you can start, instead of using shotgun approach, start using a sniper approach, because you know when and where to use a certain set of marketing tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, of course, in the Producers Club, we're not looking at the financials that close, but it is the benchmarks on campaigns and what's getting results, and as far as email campaigns, what's getting the clicks, and you know what's getting them to fill out the form, and seeing what does work. And once you find what does work, keep using it till it quits working. Why reinvent the wheel? So,
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, Ray asked a really interesting question, I think. He said, you know, is there one thing you'd like to change about peer groups in general, or even any one of these communities specifically? Is there something you'd really want to change or tweak?
Well, I can't think of anything I've been too disappointed with.
It's not a current problem. When I first got with them, we had a couple of members that were not contributing within our group, and we spoke directly to HGG about it, and they worked with those companies. One of them remained in our group, and he's now very productive. The two others, they worked with them on why they were not participating. One, they moved over to another group that was more appropriate their size and what they wanted to do. And the third one, they found out that there were some internal crises that they were not sharing with us. HTG let them out of the contract, but continued to keep them involved in a thing we have in HTG called Helping Hands. And basically they went on leave of absence for 6 months from the group, and HTG still helped them with some personal crisis. You know, they hired a housekeeper and a lawn care guy for the owner of the business because his wife was going through a cancer thing, and got them past this. And now he's back in. He joined a different group when he rejoined, and he's a vibrant member of the group now. So you definitely want to make sure your peer group, your individual peer group is contributing, and that you're allowed to hold each other accountable. And if you have someone who is coaching, that it's the type of group that will address that and correct that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's, I mean, yeah, go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to add that, you know, it's just like anything else. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. And when you commit and you build the relationships within your peer group, then you're going to have valuable assets. I look at my peer group members as my virtual board of directors. And when I use them that way, if I use, you know, you have to be open and somewhat transparent. You glean a wealth of information, and it's an advisory council that I don't know how you could do it without them.
Yeah, and that's the only comment. I mean, that's a comment I would make. I mean, kind of to echo David's point, you know, stuff will happen in people's lives, right? Where, you know, there's you know, illness in the family or something that just is a major life crisis, which is going to, of course, distract you. But I think if you put those things aside, I think the one recommendation I would make, because I'm actually on a peer group too, I actually facilitate a group of IT vendor folks who get together once a quarter and follow the HTG methodology. And I guess my one thing to say, it's not so much what to change about peer groups, but it's one warning, is be all in. I think as we've kind of led on here, there's a fairly large time commitment you need to make. There's travel. You got to hop on planes. You got to fly to Nashville. You got to fly to Minneapolis. You got to be all over the country. You get together once a quarter in many cases. It's a large time commitment. And if you're not fully intellectually and mentally and emotionally engaged, it's not a good use of your time probably. So that's I mean, I think it's the only warning I would give, is that it's a massive commitment, but the ROI is so massive in terms of what you learn, what you gain, the ideas you get, the relationships you build are so valuable, but it requires you to give, and it requires you to kind of be, you know, there 100%.
Yeah, I'd also like to add, I mean, you got to be all in, but I would like to say too that the HTGs, the tags, the, you know, producers club, whatever, you know, you might get involved in a group, and that group might not be a good fit. You know, you might not be a good fit for the group. They might not be a good fit for you. So I guess the warning or the point I want to make is, if you get involved in one of these groups and you're put into a group and you don't feel it's a good fit, before you cancel your membership in the group, maybe there's another group of peers within that group that you're a better fit for, and it'll turn things around completely, or can turn things around completely. Because I have seen that happen. You know, somebody very committed to what they, you know, joining the producers club, but they just end up in a group that they just don't click with, or it's a little different, and you talk them into moving to a different group, and it just makes a huge difference. So I guess I like to tell people, you know, if you're going to get involved in one of these groups, if you're thinking it's not a fit in the beginning, it might be the individuals that you're with in that group, and maybe not the group in its entirety.
Great.
I would agree with Kim completely. You definitely want to find a group that you gel with, and you're willing to to be on their board, as Phil said, have them as your board of directors and be on their board of directors.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of, I mean, maybe this is, maybe a question for David, but Lee wants to know, he says, we're about 100K under the qualifications for HTG, but realize that joining will help us grow. Is the qualification revenue a real barrier to entry? And that's maybe a question for the HTG staff, maybe then more for you, for David or Phil, but do you guys have any notion of how strict or not those minimum criteria are?
I do know that they're flexible. They're going to talk to you, and they're going to see whether or not you're ready to commit and be passionate about this, and whether or not you're, if you've been in business for 4 years and you've grown by, 15% each year, and you're just short of it, that obviously a year down the road you're going to be getting there, so they'll let you in early. If you've been stagnant or you've been dropping for years and there's a problem within your system, the vetting process itself will expose some of the stuff in your organization that you may want to address. They have you do a mini SWOT on yourself as part of the vetting process, and I would encourage you to talk to Scott Scrogan or one of the appropriate people at HTG and go ahead and start the process. If they even say no now, they will at least give you goals and maybe some tools to help you get there in 6 months or 12 months.
I will say on HTG as well, there's really 2 different programs. As Phil mentioned, there's an online program which might be more ideal for smaller companies or folks who don't want to travel as much. And then the face-to-face group, which does have some minimums in the form of revenue and employee count and whether you're using ConnectWise as your PSA tool. But to David's point, it never hurts to ask. Everything in life is negotiable. I mean, it's good that the various groups do have standards, right? But they understand the world is real, and there's these things can be discussed through, and if you're heading in the right direction, as David mentioned, there's probably a lot that can be negotiated.
I'm down in Florida, and we've got a storm, Erica, out in the Atlantic that could very possibly hit us Monday or early Tuesday. And it's very, very nice that I've picked up the phone and called a couple of the HTG members, and they've turned around and called everybody else in our group, and they're kind of on standby to help us if we need something. If we have to shift our help desk duties to a couple of them, or several have already offered, they've got text available on standby that they can send down here. That's a benefit that is not listed in the brochure, and you can't quantify the cost. And now it looks like it's going to turn and stay in the Atlantic, but yesterday's map had it coming right across Tampa Bay, and having that additional back support of what anybody else would say would be competitors, along with the support of folks like Ted and Jan at eFolder, which, by the way, is one of our best strategic partnerships we've ever had with a vendor, is phenomenal. So, we're looking at an impending disaster with very calm and confident attitudes because of this.
David, that's that peace of mind, I say. You've got the peace of mind because your back's covered.
Exactly.
Kind of like the peace of mind, yeah, with marketing, and I guess part of it is, the group in my marketing group is, do the same thing, but the peace of mind if something happens, you're covered.
That's right. Great final couple thoughts there. I mean, we're just about out of time. Let's kind of wrap up, and I first want to thank our panelists, Phil Keneally, Kim, and David. Thank you guys for very, very interesting conversation today. Great insights. Thank you guys all for sharing your thoughts. Just want to, okay, great, thank you. And just a final plug here, I think enabling partners to succeed in the market is something that eFolder feels very passionately about. And I just want to kind of end here with a little commercial announcement, if you will, and just remind you that as an eFolder partner, you have available eFolder Partner Playbooks, which is an end-to-end campaign framework in 4 different areas with all sorts of free marketing materials that you can plug right into your own marketing system. It's things like PowerPoint presentations and white papers and email copy and brochures and things you can just quickly edit and put your own skin on. So it's just something that we make available to partners, and it kind of dovetails very nicely with a lot of the marketing and business growth conversations in today's webinar discussion. And with that, we'll wrap things up. Thank you very much for joining us on today's eFolder Partner Chat. This is Ted Hulsy, Vice President of Marketing at eFolder, signing off. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining. Take care now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.